Hi you guys, my name is Cyan and welcome back to my YouTube video. I am super excited for this video because, well, basically it means that I have a lot of bookshelf space now so I can buy more books. But it's also a way for me to declutter because I just have so many books that I'm never gonna reread. I'm not interested in even reading. Some of these in here are unread and I just don't think I'm ever gonna get to them. And I also have some books that I do love but I just had more than one copy of. But I never said this. We're doing an unhaul. I'm sure you could tell by the title. We're doing an unhaul, and those are the types of books that I have included in here. And as you can probably also tell by the thumbnail, I have 90 books that I'm getting rid of. It's a little obsessive, it's a little crazy, so I'm glad to be here today to do this. This is your sign to get rid of some books that you either aren't gonna read, you have duplicates of, or that you just didn't love that much. I want my shelves to only have books that I actually really like and that I would recommend and that I wouldn't be ashamed if someone borrowed it, you know? But anyways, we will get into the books in a second, but first off, I just want to say that I'm also going to be doing a giveaway with this unhaul. I am actually going to be obviously going through all of these books and I'm going to have 3 winners that will get to win 3 books each, and the winners are also going to get a $50 gift card to a bookstore of their choosing, whether you want an Amazon gift card, a Barnes gift card, yada yada yada, as well as some few other little bookish goodies that I'm going to put in there for you. So all you're going to do is fill out a little Google form that I have listed in the description below, and you're going to tell me which 3 books you would like. You can either choose 3 individual books or a whole series, because I do have some series in here and like some of them are more than 3 books. That's what I'm doing for the giveaway. 3 winners that are going to get 3 books or a whole series, and this is international this time, so anyone can enter and all you have to do is be 18 years or older, and you also must be subscribed. So those are all of the rules. Wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way just so that you can kind of pay attention and figure out which books you might want to win. And this is going to actually end on New Year's. I know that's not a whole bunch of time, but I really just want to get rid of all of these books. So the rest of the books that are included in the giveaway, I am going to be selling on Pango Books. I think you can actually follow me on there, and then once the giveaway is over, that's when the books will be posted, so you'll be able to see them then. And then whatever books I don't sell or use in the giveaway, I of course am going to be donating to, I think we have like a really big local library here where I live, so I'm gonna either donate to them, to some bookstores, you know the drill. There's also a free little library down the road from me, which I just found the other day, and I'm actually pretty excited that someone put that there. So let's finally get into the unhaul. I am gonna do it in categories. The first one is just going to be like general fiction because it's right here and I only have 3 of them. And the first is actually one of the first books I ever read when I got back into reading, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing. This and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo were the first 2 books I ever read when I got back into reading. This one, I was kind of just excited because there was a movie coming out. It was very hyped up in the bookstore, so I bought it. And it was okay. I really did like it at the time that I read it, and I also enjoyed being able to watch the movie of the book that I read. It's just not one that I'm going to reread, and as well, there's some like crazy controversy surrounding this author. I highly recommend you look it up. I know some of the authors that I'm keeping, they also have crazy controversies. They also have crazy controversies. Yeah. But you know what? Mind your business. Next up is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This book, I enjoyed. It was okay. However, it's just not something I'm gonna reread once again. And I honestly kind of forgot what happened in it. Except I do remember feeling at the end that there wasn't a sound solution, or like I didn't feel her character grow any. So of course, don't really love it. And then I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I know this book is very well loved. I enjoyed it a little bit. Actually, that's a lie. I didn't really like this book. I don't know what it is. I think it was just how slow it moved, and it was very people driven, and it also might have been a me issue because I was trying to read it for a video, and when I'm trying to read for videos, I try to go as fast as I can. This is one that I feel like you kind of have to take your time with, and I didn't do that. This one's also getting unhauled. You know, it is what it is. I'm not gonna like every book that you like. You're not gonna like every book that I like. So let's move on to the mystery/thriller section. The first one is The X by Frida McFadden. I actually really enjoyed this book. However, again, it's not one I'm gonna reread, and also this might be a little petty of a reason, but I absolutely hate this cover. The Stolen Hours by Alan Eskins. I really like this one because it's a book that has the point of view of a serial killer as well as the woman who's trying to investigate the case, but it was okay, not very memorable, so there's that one. And then we have Sign Here by Claudia Lux. This one was like a funny mystery, almost fantasy in a way, because it has like hell and demons and stuff, but again, I'm just not gonna read this again. Next up, I have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I'm getting rid of this one because it's one of my least favorite, if not my least favorite Riley Sager book that he's had, and also this one's the large print copy, so it's really big and it just doesn't look okay next to my other Riley Sager books. Next up, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. If you watched my most recent 24-hour readathon, I DNF'd this book. It wasn't good in my opinion, so it's gonna go, which is a shame because I literally just bought that. Then I have Misery by Stephen King. I have come to the conclusion after just reading one book from him that I think I'm gonna stick to his movies because his writing style just isn't my cup of tea. But I do enjoy the movies, so this one's gone as well. Next is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. In this book, I literally guessed the entire plot twist before I read a single page of it. I read the synopsis and I knew what the plot twist was, so it's a very big letdown, and I think that's all that needs to be said of why I'm giving that one away. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Joel. This is another one where I was able to guess the plot twist very early on, and it also is a book that just kind of made me feel uncomfortable, so I don't want it. The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. The concept of this book sounded very interesting, but then once we got into it, you actually know very little about the maidens, and they're never even really brought up that often. Why? I don't know. It was an odd choice, but that's why I don't like it. It probably should have been named The Professor, to be honest. Then I have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is another one where I am just giving this one away because I have all of his other books in paperback format, and this is a hardcover, so I also did get the paperback, and I don't need 2 copies, you know? Then I have The Fury, another one by Alex Michaelides. I hated this book just because our narrator was very unreliable but also pretentious, and I hate a pretentious narrator. I know some people can get with it, but I cannot. Then we have First Lie Wins. This book again was one where the synopsis was a little bit different than what the actual story was, or I guess it just didn't go in the direction I personally wanted it to. I thought it was going to be like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith situation, but it was more like our main character hated her boss. And then another one, this one is actually, I guess, what is it called? Dark Academia, and I'm never gonna read it, and that's The Secret History by Jonna Tartt. I know a lot of people love it. When I learned that the chapters are literally like 30 pages long, I said no. So this one, someone else can enjoy, but not me. Okay, next up, let's do, I guess, my YA mystery slash thrillers. This is another one where some of y'all might be upset with me, but I am going to be getting rid of the Inheritance games. I have all 3 of them in the hardback versions, and here's why. Number 1, I'm more of a murder mystery girl, and I feel like these are just kind of running around chasing riddles, so like it wasn't that interesting to me. And another thing is, one of the love interests is Jameson, and that is my brother-in-law's name. I don't know. Is it just me, or like can I not root for a character who has the name of someone you know in real life? But yeah, above all else, I don't care how this ends, so they're going. And another series that I unfortunately did actually finish and hated, and I shouldn't have finished it, like I just pushed myself so hard when I was in the beginning stages of getting back into reading, is the Truly Devious series. Look, again, I know a lot of people like this. My gripe with it is that I feel like it was overly descriptive, but the number 1 thing that I hate about this is that you are solving 1, kind of 2 mysteries, and it doesn't get solved until the very last book. So that means, if you think about it, these are like 300 pages, and yeah, the font is big or whatever, but that means you're reading like technically 1,000 pages to solve 1 mystery. No. And then another series that is YA. This one is actually dystopian. You can probably guess what it is that I'm just not gonna finish. It's the entire Shatter Me series. I read up to Ignite Me as well as like the novellas that are in between, and I just have no interest in this. I think dystopian isn't one of my favorite genres to begin with. When books are just a little bit too YA, it makes it even worse, and I'm sorry again because I know people love this series. I get why they love it. It's just personally not my thing. Now let's do fantasies slash fantasy romance. I do have a couple other YAs in there, so let's start with that. First off is the Caraval trilogy. I actually really love this trilogy, which it's funny because I don't like Shatter Me for the YA-ness of it, but I loved the YA series Caraval. You know, we can't help what we do and don't love. It's just human nature. The reason why I'm getting rid of these 3 is because these are like the, I want to say UK covers. When I originally, again, started reading in like the very beginning, I did not like the US covers, and I thought these were prettier, but then over time I grew to love the US covers and I wanted them, so I bought the US covers, and now I just don't need these ones. You know, I never said I was responsible. Another YA fantasy that I have is actually Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is like the original indie published in paperback version. I already have the hard copies of the Barnes & Noble editions that were released, so I just don't need this. It's actually kind of funny because I think in the beginning I was going to try and annotate this. There are some highlighted parts in here, but then I just gave up. Yeah, at like 167, like this far into the book, I gave up on annotating because I realized that that takes too much effort from me. So if you do want this one, it does have a few highlights. Next up is Echoes and Empires by Morgan Rhodes. I did read this off of a recommendation from one of you guys, and I did actually really enjoy it while I read it, but if I'm being honest, it's again just one of those where it's not super memorable in my mind, and I kind of already forgot what happened, and I don't think I continued the series. Next up, I don't know if this is YA, but it's a fantasy, and that is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I just remember this one felt like we were doing the same thing over and over and over again, where it's like this girl and this boy, they were enemies at this school, and they couldn't catch a break because every time they closed their eyes, there was a creature trying to kill them, and it just kept happening over and over and over again, so it was annoying in my opinion, and I don't want to continue this series. Okay, this is a YA book that I DNF'd, so I can't tell you much about it. I just know that I wasn't having a good time. That's The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. It's a thick one, and while the cover is very pretty, I was bored out of my mind within like 100 pages. This is another series that I've heard a lot about, and I just couldn't get with it as well. The first book did feel very, very slow to me, and I remember it felt like it was dragging on and not much action was happening at all, so that's why I'm getting rid of it. It's The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. Again, just not my cup of tea. And then I have Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I actually really, really love this book. It's one of my favorite books of the year, but again, I have the traditional published copy of it, and this one is a book of the month version, so I'm getting rid of this one because book of the month typically doesn't release series. They just release like the beginning of the series. When the second book comes out, I want my copies to match. I think that's a very reasonable explanation. Okay, some other ones that a lot of people did love but just wasn't my favorite is Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves. I loved Dance of Thieves. This is the first one, right? I absolutely loved this book so much, but then when I got into this one, it felt like it was dragging and I couldn't care less. So I don't think I'm gonna reread this one ever just because I was disappointed by this one, and this one I actually DNF'd like over 50% of the way through, so that was fun. And then the next one that I'm going to be giving away is Lightlark. I originally thought that maybe I would continue this series, but after more deliberation, like in my heart and soul, I don't want to because I don't care. So this one, bye-bye. Another one that I just genuinely don't think I'm going to finish the series is actually Serpent and Dove. And that's just because I wasn't absolutely in love with this first book, so I feel like it would either take me a very, very long time to ever get into the rest of the series, or I'm just not going to, and it's going to sit on my shelf forever and be by itself without its companions. Another series, or surprise, that I'm not going to finish is actually The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I didn't care for this, and that's that. Next up is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This one dragged out for so long, and the ending was just kind of dumb in my opinion, and it's not one of my favorite books ever. I actually kind of forgot what happened. I just remember feeling lost and confused for most of this book. Then I have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This is one where I really, really liked it up until about like the 60% mark, where it just kind of went south and nothing was making sense to me. So unfortunately, I'm not gonna keep that. And then I have Bow Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. This one, again, the premise sounded very interesting. I mean, like, it's two people that I think they're spies or something like that, and they have to be fake married as spies. So like the romance potential was there, but like the mission that they were on and everything just kind of got in the way. So that's a me problem. I prefer a lot more romance in books like this. Then I have A Fate Inked in Blood. This is one that I kind of read when I was in the middle of a slump, and it was okay, but it wasn't a fantasy that stood out to me. I might continue the series, and if I end up liking the second book, then I will repurchase, but I'll repurchase it again in a copy that's not a Book of the Month copy. See, I know a lot of people are sponsored by Book of the Month, and I will probably never be, so I'm just gonna say it. I feel like I'm wasting my money with Book of the Month because they don't have like copies that don't say Book of the Month on them. You know what I mean? And like when I really like a series, I want all the covers to match. So like I'm just wasting my money at this point buying 2 copies of the books from Book of the Month that I do like. Anyways, moving on. Another one that I'm getting rid of is Spark of the Everflame. This is one that I personally actually really liked. I know a lot of people say that they don't, but I really liked it. However, it did get republished, so I just have a new copy of it and I don't need 2. Then I have Hunting Beauty. You probably saw this in my 24-hour readathon as well. This was a wild ride, and I'm not going to continue the series because it was just so outlandish, so it's not going to stay on my shelf. Then I have Reign of Shadows and Endings. This is another book where it just dragged on for way too long. Why is every single fantasy so thick in a series of like 5+ books? I don't understand, but this is one that just couldn't keep my attention gripped. It again felt like we were just going in circles, doing the same thing over and over and over again, and I have no interest in continuing the series. Then we have Starling House. This is another one where I was just bored, and I don't know what else to tell you. So it was a DNF. Oh my gosh, another DNF was Immortal Dark, which I'm so sad about because a lot of people love this book and it's super pretty. But in this one, the jumping from one scene to the next just didn't feel very cohesive, so I was getting pretty confused, especially because I was listening to parts of it and I was like, wait a minute, did I miss something? But I didn't miss anything. But this one actually is not part of the giveaway because I already promised it to Cassidy. So Cassidy, don't worry, I didn't forget about you. Then another DNF was actually The Crimson Crown by Heather Walter. I don't know what else to say besides I was bored, so it was a DNF. And again, it's super thick. I didn't want to waste my time with it. But if you want like a, what is it? A Snow White, the Evil Queen retelling, but make it female, you would like this. Maybe. I mean, I don't want to speak for you. Oh, then this is another one that I absolutely loved, but the issue is the book of the month issue, and that is Phantasma. Of course, I love this book. You probably already know that. Nothing much else to say except why do I keep doing this to myself? And then these next few are also part of a series. I don't know what the series is called, but the first one is The Dragon's Throne. These are dragon fantasies, and while I did enjoy the first one, it wasn't a standout to me, and the only reason why I have all three is because I originally ordered the third one, but I didn't know it was the third one. I just saw a quote on TikTok and I really wanted to read the book, and I didn't pay attention. So then, after I bought the third one, and I realized it was the third one, I had to buy the other two, and it also bothers me that these two are glossy and this one is matte. And then I have The Ministry of Time. This is another one where it just felt too slow while I was reading it and I did not care. And again, I'm not a huge sci-fi person, so I think that's what the issue with this one is. And then I have Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. Again, I was bored. I don't have to explain myself, right? Then I have This Blood That Binds Us. This is a book that I bought because of TikTok. It's a vampire romance. And this cover, I can't lie, it's absolutely gorgeous. However, this is like a college vampire romance series, and the vampire in here was very, very golden retriever to the point where like I was annoyed by him. It also was just very predictable. There is like a mystery, and I knew who it was from the very beginning, and I just didn't connect with it. Then I have Court of the Vampire Queen. This is like a dark romance, which of course include vampires. I do like some of Katie Roberts' writing. She is known for her spice. She does a good job, but this one was just too ridiculous because I think why choose isn't really my thing, and this one is one woman and I think like 3 or 4 vampires. Honestly, in the beginning when her father sold her to these vampires to be his blood bag and for him to use her body in the very beginning, that's when I should have DNF'd it. But no, I got to the point where she allegedly has powers. The only way to get those powers out is to have extreme pleasure. And the only way for that extreme pleasure to happen will be for her to go to the bedroom with all 3 of the men. That's why that one I never touched again. And I can't say I feel like I'm missing out. Okay, next up, the last category are romances. So the first 2 are books that I actually absolutely love as well. And that is Immortality and nope, it's Anatomy and then Immortality. I love these books so much. If you like a Victorian era mystery, yeah, with romance in it, you will love these. The thing is, I have 2 hardback copies of them, and while I do prefer to read paperbacks, the hard copy versions are so pretty that I'm keeping those. And then I was actually sent these by the publisher, so thank you so much to the publisher for sending me these because it's amazing to be sent books from an author that you absolutely love. I just don't need extra copies. Next up is Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. The only Penelope Douglas book that I've loved so far is Birthday Girl. It just does not feel like the same author when I read her other books. So this, Credence, I mean those are the only other 2 I've read, but they're just not my speed. So yeah, again, this is like one girl and 5 brothers, not at the same time, and one of them she doesn't even sleep with, but like not my thing. Then I have The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. This one, the essay, and honestly, the Stockholm Syndrome, it was too much for me. And there wasn't even really much of a plot. So I didn't love it. I know some people will, just not my thing. Next up is another book that I really, really loved, but we have the same issue that we've had multiple times. Yeah, I really, really love this book. I have a paperback copy. I don't need this one. Sorry to repeat myself, but it is what it is. Then I have Without Merit by Colleen Hoover. This is been on my TBR for forever, and I'm just not gonna read it because I don't love her writing anymore. Another one is It Ends With Us. I think my time with Colleen Hoover ended with this book, so enough said. And then again, another one by her, Ugly Love. Then I have The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This one wasn't bad, but it dragged on, and it's not my favorite romance, and I don't think I will ever reread it. And sometimes when I look at it, I kind of look at it with disgust, so I don't want to see it on my shelf anymore. Next up, I have the entire Off Campus series. These were fine for what they were. I had a good time when I read them, but I'm just never gonna reread them. And also, if I do want to, I will buy the new covers because these are the original covers, which are ugly. This is another one that's probably gonna be a little bit controversial, but that is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I liked 75% of this book, and then there was like a conflict slash plot twist, and I absolutely hated that part. And the entire last portion of this book, it was too big for what it was. If it would have ended a lot sooner and that not happened, I would have liked it, but unfortunately I didn't. Then I have Funny You Should Ask. I think he's an actor or a singer or something like that, and it was kind of insta-lovey. Moving forward, I have 2 Emily Henry books. I don't love Emily Henry as much as a lot of other people do, but I decided to keep 3 of her books, Beach Read, Book Lovers, and then I also kept a copy of Happy Place because I do have a paperback version, but originally they did publish it in a hardback copy, so I have that, and I'm getting rid of it because I don't need to. Also, I will remove the sticker residue, okay? I just haven't yet, but I will. And then another one is People We Meet on Vacation. I'm trying to be better about sometimes I will keep books that I don't love just because I loved some of the author's other books. I'm trying to be better about that. You do not have to collect every single book from an author just because you love them. If there's a book that they wrote that was a dud in your opinion, you don't need to keep it. So that's what I'm trying to be better about, and this one was my least favorite out of all of Emily Henry's, which is crazy because isn't that the first one they're making a movie out of? I'll probably watch it, to be fair. Okay, I hope you have stuck along because we are in the final trenches, and these are finally the last few books. The first one is Manhunt by Vanessa Vale. I just love small town romances. I wanted to find another small town series that I would love. This is not one of them. This book was absolutely terrible. It starts off with her accidentally sending a sex quiz that she filled out to her boss. All of a sudden he realizes that he's in love with her. They start up a romance and he's very possessive, like growls and says you're mine and shit like that, which I know a lot of romances have, but this one was just too cringy. So honestly, if you're entering the giveaway, don't pick this book. And then another book that I did absolutely love is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. However, if you watched my bookshop with me video, I did purchase another copy because the first book in the series, I had the mountain on the spine, and when I bought this one, it didn't have the mountain, so I had to get a version with the mountain. It only was logical. And then a novel love story. I'm keeping Ashley Poston's other 2 books because I absolutely loved them, but this one was just a dud and I did not like it. And again, I'm trying to do that thing where I don't keep all of their books just because I love the author. So this one is going away. And that also applies to this next book, which is All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I love Mariana Zapata, love her writing so much, but this one I didn't vibe with as much, so again, it's going away. This next series had a lot of hype, and I know a lot of people love it, but again, it's too YA for me. As a 25-year-old woman, I just couldn't get with it, and I actually didn't even finish the show because of how much it just felt too cringy in my opinion, and that is the Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. Yeah, if you want it, you can have it. Next up is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I didn't mind this book, but again, it felt too cheesy, like rom-com-y. I'm just never gonna pick this up again, or any of her other books, I think. Personally, just not my type of romance. I think there's too many out there to be reading ones that you think are okay. And that also applies to When in Rome by Sarah Adams. It was okay. It moved a little bit too fast, though, and felt a little bit insta-lovey, so that's why I don't think I'll ever pick it up again. And then I have King of Wrath by Anna Huang. I honestly just don't think that I love her writing anymore. I think The Striker kind of solidified that. Like, there's nothing wrong with the writing itself, but they're just not my favorites. And again, there's too many great books out there to read things that you're not in love with or obsessed with. And this one was one that I feel like I can just forget about. I don't know if I'll continue the series. If I do, it's on Kindle Unlimited, so like I can just read it there. Don't think I feel the urge to keep physical copies. And then these last 2 books are books that I absolutely hated. I don't know why I put myself through this torture, but that is the first in the Lancaster Prep series by Monica Murphy. I know these are again very loved, but the first one, Things I Wanted to Say and A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime, the men are just gross. Like, they're not even men, they're boys because I think they're in college or maybe even high school, prep school. They come from rich families and they're douchebags and they don't treat women with the respect that I think they deserve. So yeah, especially in this one, he was so obsessed with her virginity that it grossed me out. So bye-bye. But that is that. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I had fun unhauling. I'm not gonna have fun putting all these books away. Look at me, dealing with the consequences of my own actions. But yep, that is it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!